Can you say hard hats, folks? Hard hats, lunch pail, steel toe boots.
Anything short of a championship this year is a failure. Look at this boomer right here.
You've just got so much talent here.
Somebody said we need to apologize for Jalen.
Can I close it, John? What are we apologizing for? What did we say? What did we do?
Oh, there it is.
There it is. You brought it. He
There
knows.
it is.
Amit knows.
Hey,
Wouldn't
breaking
you know
news.
it?
Breaking news. Judah hates the intro.
Here's the least surprising comment of all time.
We both saw it. There he is, folks. Hater of the year. Hates the intro. You know what? That's how I know it's a good intro. That's how I know it's a good intro, because Judah hates it.
You guys suck. You guys suck. I hate you. I'll see you tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah. That's it. I'm tired of this shit. I'm
out
out.
of these losers. See you tomorrow.
Intro is lame. Intro sucks. Outro is even worse. But the Celtics keep on. John, what do they keep doing? Keep on rolling.
Are you trucking or rolling?
I'm rolling, dude. That's what the Celtics are doing. They're rolling. Well, they got 2 in a row, so now they're officially rolling. You can't roll after 1, but you can start to roll after 2.
Yeah.
So
a lot of when we're setting up and we're making sure we got things going. I'm sorry, I got a little
hoarse.
Just a little hoarse. I'll be all right. We're trying to get things going. We're just looking at the chat. I was kind of take the temperature of which way things are going here.
Yeah, sure.
I would we should try to run with the Pacers. That's what we did in the first half. It was great. That was the best half. Then they slowed it down and played ISO in the second half. But anyway,
Apology Cam is in store for John, because, as I say, play defense, play hard.
They didn't. They played
physical.
none of it. But they were great in the first half when they were just running up and down the court and just firing and playing fast. Anyway.
What? I'll say this, John. No, let me say this. Let me say this to you, John.
Say it.
Take a look at the second chance points tonight. And I know you saw it probably on the broadcast, but if you take a look at the second chance points, that tells me that the Celtics were too busy trying to get out on the break, not being physical, not playing hard enough on defense, and allowing the Pacers to get all those second chance opportunities, offensive rebounds, whatever you want to call it. That's why this was a game, because of all the extra opportunities the Pacers had.
When they couldn't rebound. When they slowed things down.
They couldn't rebound.
When they slowed things down is when they got worse. But anyway, that's fine.
That's agree to disagree. Go on. I'm blurry.
That's fine. You are blurry.
I'll come back out of it. I always do. It's Nick gave me this webcam. I'll tell you what, if Gelso's watching tonight, I know he's on vacation, but
this is
he
random.
gave me a perpetually blurry webcam. There we go.
There's a Woody Allen movie called Deconstructing Harry. And in one of the scenes, it's a bunch of vignettes. Robin Williams plays a character who's just out of focus. Like everywhere he goes, everyone just looks at him and he's blurry. And they're like puking in real life and stuff.
Robin Williams was the character in that one?
Was the character, and they can't be around him because they're just like, he's blurry, and it just makes everybody nauseated. Anyway, so I was perusing the chat.
Another game they would have lost last year, according to Tespi.
It's a split kind of room right now in terms of good game, bad game. People are angry about the second and third quarter defense, the way the offense kind of stalled there, getting killed on the boards. Kristaps Porzingis defense, a lot of things about Keita.
What are they saying about Porzingis defense? That they liked it?
Yeah. No, they didn't. I thought he got eaten up.
No, he did, but
I thought he got eaten up.
I'll tell you what I did like about Porzingis, because I'll play silver lining here for a second. The dunk. The Porzingis dunk tonight was that was like you know what I mean? That was one of those things.
Yeah, but he was sloppy. He missed a lot.
Yep.
He was losing the ball, he wasn't able to,
Is that the ankle or is that just?
He said after the game in the Abby interview that he's still not 100%, but like the rebounding was gross, whether it was him or
the second chance points right there,
or Keita and the second chance points. all around pretty bad. I mean, Porzingis hauled in 12 boards.
31 to 6 on that number, just so you know.
But the offensive rebounds, 19 offensive rebounds for the Pacers, who aren't even that good at it. And they just killed them. A lot of those were long rebounds. I'm not putting that all on the bigs. A lot of those were nobody putting a body on anybody. You take shots from deep, as the Pacers do, you're going to get some long rebounds, which means everybody's got to find a body. And and they weren't doing that. So that got ugly. But for the most part, you loved everything you saw in the first half. It looked like 2 games ago they came out and they hit everything in the first half, playing fast, playing up tempo, playing Pacers basketball, running up and down, chucking, then just. But man, they gave up a ton of points in the second and third quarter there, 77 points between those two. But yeah, kind of a mixed bag win. But you know what? They come back and they close for the most part. And then they kind of unclosed. So it's, again, one of those weird games, Jimmy, is they were able to come back from and extend a lead to 10. After they blew one lead, then they extend a lead to 10 points and basically put the game away. And then it's a one-possession game again. So they kind of were all over the place there.
I agree. I think it got a little helter-skelter in that second half, especially in the third quarter. Different than last night's game. Same result. They got the win, but this is like kind of like a polar opposite sort of feeling because they were up. I don't know exactly what the number was in the first half, but it was mid-double. It was close to 15, I think, right? And then all of a sudden you look up in that third quarter and Pacers are on a run. It's completely different feeling to this game. And I don't want to disrespect the Pacers. I do think the Pacers are a top 4 team in the East. So I don't expect them to lose by 30. I expect them to make some sort of a comeback in the second half there. It's a game of runs. I mean, even last night against the Pelicans, both teams were going on these borderline, crazy runs, 10-1, 13-2, 9-0. And so this was not that tonight, but I thought the Celtics probably understood that the Pacers were going to go on their run. And I guess that's kind of what his message was last night, where it's like, he's going to say it tonight. Of course they were. Of course the Pacers were going to come back. Did you think that it was going to be easy and that we were going to just win by 20 points and Indy wasn't going to make a run? So I wasn't completely surprised to see that happen. I do think the way that they gave up that lead and the way that the Pacers came back into it was a little bit unique. You mentioned the long shots, long rebounds aspect of it. And I think, again, that has to be, I imagine that's a point of emphasis going into this one. The Celtics have a full staff of accomplished assistants, Amazula, and the type of game that the Pacers play. They run it up the court. They take shots. They take threes. You're going to have those long rebounds. That has to be some sort of point of emphasis so that doesn't get out of control. I thought there was a little bit of Did you just say something to me? Are you doing something? Okay. I thought there was maybe a lack of emphasis on that end. But I'm not upset with this game, certainly. I think, again, this is a game that I would have been shitting all over them if they ended up losing it. So I'm not going to shit all over them because they ended up pulling it off in that fourth quarter. I care about the fourth quarter. I care about the execution down the stretch. And I get on these guys when that goes to shit, like it did so many times last year and like it has done a couple times this year. There's been a couple losses this year where we haven't even had to deal with it. Bucks, Clippers, to name a couple. But in the close games, I'm looking for how this team executes down the stretch in the fourth quarter. And so I'm not super upset with it tonight because when the Pacers made their comeback and brought it into a close game, Celtics were able to, do their thing, get back ahead by a few points. Obviously have to give, Tatum credit tonight for the way he played. Efficient, 12 of 19, 30 points, 4 of 9 from 3. So he's probably needed a 3-point shooting night a little bit like he did tonight. Brown's still struggling a bit from out there, but didn't get to the line tonight, Tatum. But I still think just able to switch it up the way he was scoring tonight. Even, to get 30 points and only go to the line 3 times, that says a lot about how he was shooting out there. I can't hear you, John. I think you're muted.
I
or something.
muted myself there while you were talking, but no, I agree. All in all, pretty good. From those guys, Derek White was big again. He really did
Right,
kind of
yeah.
unlock. He unlocked something with those threes that he got in late. So we'll give him a little, hats off there. And yeah, Porzingis looked a little bit rough. That's fine. Good
Double-double for
defense.
Porzingis.
Good
17.
defense when it counted. You had a couple of blocks late. Tatum, D. White, and that was solid. And somebody put it in the chat, and I'll absolutely. It's the best offense in the league for a reason. They put up 120 points. You expect them to put up 120. Truthfully, if the Celtics take care of their own and just grab some boards, it probably isn't that close of a game. So I think that was an anomaly, not like a fatal flaw of this team. In fact, they'd been rebounding well as a team, particularly Tatum and Brown, and chipping in there. It's not like they have just one guy who cleans up everything. And as I said, Porzingis had 12. Keita, though, when he's in there, grabs only one board, and he's a weird, sloppy dude, right? Like he's got one of those, he's just got that thing, right? He's just that guy who's like, it's very Rob-like, right? You're like, it almost feels like he's like that guy who just grew a foot in a year and has no control over his arms and legs. And like, that's what he looks like sometimes. He's just flailing around, flopping around.
I think it's reps, man. I really think
he's not able to grab those rebounds. A lot of times the ball's right there for him, and he's not locking it up, or, he's just a beat slow and he gets his hands on it and someone rips it. So he was kind of all over the place. But then, that guy, man, sheer entertainment, the jump ball that he steals for himself, then he does a split, a literal goalie split, to earn a chance at another jump ball, and basically wins that to himself again, goes in for a dunk and one, has a couple of blocks, overall just entertaining stuff from him. And again, you look at the end of the night, 14 minutes, everyone's killing him, right? Killing him on Twitter. Like, this guy can't play, because he's a mess. He couldn't grab rebounds. He was there when they went on their run. He was in there and he was kind of.
Well, I was going to say, how about the, check out the box score. I know the box score doesn't tell the story if you watch the game.
Ahmed, how do I not have a Keita lower third?
But I will play Ahmed right here. Who led the team in plus minus tonight? And that's a big bench stat.
That's what I was leading at, 15.
Yeah. And I know for a fact, and I've talked to bench guys about this, they look at that stat more than they look at anything else. If you're a bench guy, you're looking at the plus minus. Not so much if you're a starter, because you're in, you're out, you're going toe to toe with the best guys. But when you're a bench guy and you get put into that game, the way these guys determine if they're having a positive effect on the game as a bench guy can earn more minutes moving forward is the plus minus stat. Love it or hate it. Keita was a plus 15 tonight, led the team. And I know that he may have benefited from a run, as you say, but he's a part of that run. And whether it's positioning, whether it's being in the right spot at the right time, John, or making the extra hockey pass that now we do have numbers for, or and stats for, that they're going to look at that game and say Keita was a positive influence on that game when they look at the film. And they are going to look at this film tonight, because I guarantee you, I shouldn't say I guarantee you, but I would not be surprised at all. And the Celtics have played 5 games against the Pacers this year. I would not be surprised at all if they play at least 4 more. I think these teams are destined to meet in the second round of the Eastern Conference playoffs. And so Keita might be a guy, despite the fact that they were out rebound like crazy with him in the game, there may be a situation where if Cornette's not doing what they need him to do, Keita, you're in. I think Keita has earned that, John. Would you say that he has earned?
I thought
he had earned
Keita,
the quick hook off of Cornette.
So again, this is where I defend Keita to Bobby and Louise. I want to get back to this comment because I agree here on this one, and I want to address it. I wanted to put it up there.
Well, she's gone. She's already gone, so she's not even here anymore.
Because we haven't said Jalen yet, but I agree. So I
have a good night.
I do want to get into that. No, I want to get into that. But the Keita, this is where I kind of my arguments with Bobby on it, like, and again, he can come on here and defend himself and the pro Cornet and this and that. It's not an either or, but I think, being dismissive of people for what they can't do
and not recognizing what they do. When Bobby and I were having that kind of little text beef over Cornette and Keita, I threw out a lot of numbers, and those numbers, again, in fewer minutes for Keita versus Cornette, empirical evidence that showed that they're more effective when he's on the court. For what it's almost kind of the Rob argument.
Research? You did your
I did some research. I nerded up and I did some research. But
do your research.
They play better with him on the court, and it is very much the Rob thing. And I'm not comparing the two players. I'm just comparing that you see Rob and he looks all over the place, and especially in the early days of Rob, and you're like, this guy, man, I just don't trust it. But then you look at the numbers after, and they're like, well, it's the best plus minus on the team and the best net rating on the team. Kate has the best net rating on the team. He does. He's got the best offensive rating. The best offensive rating on the team, which is not what you would necessarily think, because a lot of it has to do with the offensive rebounds and the ability to kind of put it back. And again, limited minutes. They've been good with him on the floor, despite the fact that sometimes he looks like he's just kind of clueless or sloppy or a little bit all over the place. So, I think and Cornette looks a little nicer. He's more elegant, right? And that's part of the.
I'm not
meaning he's got good hands.
I'm not gonna say that Cornette looks elegant. I'm not gonna go.
He's got good hands. He can finish a little bit. His timing's a little better. He's usually in better position. He's more. How about refined?
What was the word that somebody used for Rob that was just like perfect? Remember that, John? They were like, they defined him. They defined the issues with Rob. I forget what it was, but it'll come to us. But basically, he's like borderline clumsy out there a little bit. And that wasn't the word that they used. It was much more articulate than that. That's not me, unfortunately. But I think, like you said, Kate is kind of suffering from a similar disease where he can play. Don't get me wrong. He can play. He's a big physical force and he's athletic, but there's a clumsy factor to him, or it's almost like a quarter of a step behind where he needs to be, or like whether it's hands or feet, but something's there. And I think he's earned the right to get the call into the game, which none of these bench guys had for like the first, 20 plus games of the season. We're like, where's Stevens? Where's Cato? Where's Svi? Where's, go down the line. I think, and yeah, I understand that, Cornette, it's a little banged up, but I think it's closer than it ever has been. And those guys do different things. And Bobby will be the first guy to tell you that, Luke's a better passer and blah, 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 and all this stuff. Like, he will say all those things that we don't need to ask him. He will tell us. But I think Kate has got the more physicality factor. There's a toughness about him that I like. And the stats will show that the team is effective when he's in the game. It isn't to say they're not when Luke isn't in there, but I've seen Luke in the game before. I'm just like, he's a zero right now. He's not contributing any. Luke has the tip almost down pat. He's done that pretty well out of. John, you're muted, so I don't even know what you're saying. But
I'm agreeing with everything.
Oh, okay, good. Then go ahead and mute yourself again.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah. But those two offer different, they have different values to the team. And so there's room for both of them. Again, in limited capacity. And I've talked about this with you guys, whether it's a group chat or on here. And John, you've made a good point where there's going to be probably a couple situations where the Celtics are going to want to go double big. But generally speaking, I don't think we're talking about either of these guys much once the playoffs come around.
Yeah, it's like talking about like arguing over like your 8th favorite Thanksgiving side. You might only have like a bite
which
of
we'll
it,
do.
Which we will do. But it's like, it's not the stuffing of the potatoes or the lobster mac or whatever it is you're bringing to the table. You're talking about the difference between broccolini and like, the bean casserole with the turkey onion crisps on it, like. We're way down the food.
You're talking about green bean. I don't sniff green beans. So for me, yeah, that's 8th. Anything like that. But
again, Kes says it here, and I've said this a million times before. For everything,
that's a good way to put it, Kes.
Who tries to play big, and that's always been our argument with Bobby. Is that he tries to do big boy things. He goes in there, tries to block shots. Yeah. and he tries to grab some boards. He grabs offensive rebounds. He tries to go up strong. Kornet's, like I said, he's fancy. But again, his timing is good. His hands are great. His finishing around the rim has been great. He's really good at, they've been running pick and rolls and getting him lobs and stuff like that. It's been good.
We got a super
he's
chat
soft, and you go right at him. Go ahead, Jimmy.
I don't know if you I can't put it up. I don't know if you saw it. It was from Jason Tatum. He said Kata does a split, post or dunk. Halliburton does a split, 2-week injury. Kata confirmed better than Halliburton. So I would agree with that.
Agree. That's
they
100%.
need to probably play Kata.
Can't argue with that.
As much, yeah.
Halliburton missed like 3 weeks. Kata got up, won the jump, and then dunked on everybody's head.
Yeah. And then just before that, Ethan Graves, thank you for, he had a little super chat. He said, is Bobby going to leave us hanging again? That is a great question, Ethan. I wish I could answer that, but we have no freaking clue what Bobby's up to when he's at the TD Garden. I know he's in the locker room getting questions in and getting some information. What we need to do is get him on this damn show so that he can divulge all that.
Bobby might have been spoken to. Bobby might have been spoken to.
He might have been smoking last night. I didn't want to say it, but he might have been smoking last night. Yeah.
He might have been spoken to. What's Bobby wearing? We don't know.
Oh, I thought he said smoking. Yeah, I thought maybe he
might have been.
smoking.
He might have been spoken to. I would agree here. I feel like Crispin that
it's been smoking too, though. Yeah, a little bit of that. You saw what he was wearing.
Yes, Adam, I am. To answer your question,
you're going to the Sphere. The Sphere.
Yeah.
Wait, in Vegas?
Yeah, at some point.
See who?
People. Hey, here we are. Here's my comment. Here's my Kata, lower third.
Oh, thank you, Amit. But he didn't give you the
plus. I need the plus minus.
He didn't give you the one thing you wanted. Damn it, Amit. Like, we wanted to talk about 4 points and 1 rebound and 14. Like, that's what we wanted. Damn it, Amit. Yeah. Better have a fire outro tonight.
We don't know. We do have fire. Yeah, it's going to be. He's been working. He's been polishing that outro.
Yeah. Hey,
I can't imagine Bobby smoking, by the way.
I can.
Really?
I can, yeah. Not because I've seen it, but I can imagine. I feel like he would be like super chill.
Really high.
I feel like he would. I feel like Bobby would feel the need to be super chill.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe
right,
like
fair enough.
A couple of giggles.
Maybe. All right. We'll tell you real quick.
Joe Sway, definitely.
Super Bowl time, $200 bonus bets. Go to FanDuel.com/Boston. Get in on the big game. Bet on all your props. You're going to want to do this before the Super Bowl, obviously, because during the Super Bowl, you're going to be like, ding, 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 like 100 bets rolling, live action, live odds, all of the props. No better place to go than FanDuel. Overload. America's #1 sports book. And you want to have your bonus bets to do that, especially for these fun Mickey Mouse props and parlays that you're probably going to be running through the game.
Can I say something real quick?
After I get through this.
No, about this. It's about this, John.
Yeah.
I think this is the best time ever to take us up on this deal because there's nothing more fun than dinking and dunking prop bets at the Super Bowl. You wake up Sunday. You have all day to sort of get ready for it. You know, you're in the kitchen, you're making a couple of things, tossing a bet in here, tossing a bet. If somebody said, hey, here's 200 bonus bets to work with, and you can just dink and dunk bets all day and all night. I mean, this is the only time to do this. So you have to download the app, FanDuel.com/Boston. Win the $5 bet though, guys. This is the trick. You have to bet heavy, heavy, heavy favorite. I don't know if you can do it on a live bet. If you can, then I would just wait for some team to have a massive lead and bet on that team as a money line, and then you're going to
win the bet. Win the bet. Anyway, so check it out, FanDuel.com/Boston. Get in on the action right now. Back to the game and back to some of the comments here. Oh my God, that's a funny one. From
yeah, totally. Totally it is.
Yes, Davis is the game MVP.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Yeah, we listen. All right, fine. We'll talk about Tatum and Brown for the what game number?
Okay. This guy scored. You know what? Nemus probably scored higher than his average. Did Brown? maybe by a little.
Yeah,
Again,
he did actually.
guys, when they scored 30 and 25, that's what they do every night. It's like breakfast. It's like talking about what they had for breakfast. It's just what they do. Tatum was in it early, 10 of 12 to start. Got cold, got a little too ISO-y late. I thought the ball stopping hurt them a little bit. And yes, Louise, I do think that a couple things happened. White was bringing the ball up a lot. They were running actions. They were getting Kristaps and or Tatum involved in actions. And then Brown is just the odd man out in those late game scenarios. I don't remember seeing him late here. And I agree. He did get iced out a little bit.
Let me ask you a question, John. And it's going off this super chat that we just got from Orion Zarina. I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong, but thank you. This team needs to work on its intensity in the third quarter, is what this person said. My question to you, John.
Here it is.
My question to you is this. Are the Celtics too situational? And what I mean by that is, okay, they were up by a good amount in the third quarter. And so naturally, the opposition came back into the game. I find it hard to believe that if they were down by 15 in the third quarter, and I know it's happened maybe once or twice, but I find it hard to believe that if they were down by that much in the third quarter, that they would continue to sink in the third quarter that way. So I'm not saying the word is lazy, but do they just get too complacent? Do they get too comfortable? Maybe
you get used to it. Sometimes, like you have nights like God,
and vice versa. If they're down 15, is that when they say, "Hey, all right, let's turn it up"? Like, are they just victims of the moment?
Well, look at it. Look at the last 3 games, okay? And again, we do too many of these. I can't even remember 2 games ago.
2 games ago, they got smoked by the Clippers.
No. 3 games ago. Sorry, I'm trying to go through the schedule here. So yes, you did get smoked by the Clippers. But what I was talking about was, and obviously this is the back-to-back, jumping ahead to the Heat. You shoot 55% from 3 and 60 from the field. Clippers is the whole, Bill comes due, complete inverse of that. The way that they shot, and then obviously the third quarter, that 20-0 run, that was that. And then the Pacers was kind of like the Heat, the way they started. You get used to it, right? The ball starts going. You have a game like you had against Miami. You start to kind of feel it, And I think that happened. I mean, I know we debate like, oh, slow it down, play hard. It's not even that with me. I do think like getting into the back and forth run and gun with a team like the Pacers, where it can hurt you is they do it all the time. You do it some of the time, and they can do it. But I also think their tendency is to slow things down from time to time. And when they do, I think that's when things get away from them. But in this instance, they were still doing it in the third quarter, running up and taking the first 3 available and hoping it would drop. And it wasn't. And then they were getting killed either in transition or, just defensively. And they just gave up a ton of points. So you just went cold fast there. They were kind of relying on what they were. I think they just got, especially like a guy like Tatum, you get used to those step backs and those pull-ups working. You just kind of keep going to the bag, and then they didn't work as well.
And they don't.
And that was
average
it.
Because it's going to end up being around the average at the end of the day.
Yeah, you don't have the long story short, you don't have nights like Miami often where it stays that way the entire time. That's pretty rare.
Spin zone, those nights actually hurt you in the long run. You don't want those nights.
Yeah, because then you can get into that. So again, Tatum wasn't taking it in as much as I liked in the second half, was reliant on some jumpers. I think he had one bucket in the paint, maybe 4 or 5 3-point attempts and a couple of long contested 2s. That was his shot profile in the second half. He didn't really get to the line. So I didn't love that. From
I didn't love it, but I did mention earlier in the show that it was just for a guy to be able to still score 30 points and not get to the line, there's on the opposite side of that, that's still impressive to me because that tells me that his shot was falling tonight, which there are nights where, as we've seen, especially recently, the 3-point shot for Tatum and Brown has not been kind to them. And that's probably been one of the, if you have a concern, and I'm not saying it's a major concern, but I think over-reliance on a 3-point shot on a night where it's not working is a recipe for disaster when it comes to Tatum and Brown, because we've seen it before. These guys, it's funny because sometimes it doesn't happen, and sometimes they say, okay, I'm going to attack the rim tonight. But there are also nights where they force the three, and if it's not falling, it's an ugly night. And that's when you need, and that's the difference between last year and this year. Last year, it's a loss. This year, White comes through, Porzingis comes through, Holiday comes through in some capacity, in some order. I'm not saying all three of them come through at every single moment, but that seems to be the difference between this year and last year. And that's why, again, those additions to the team are so important, because it still allows Tatum and Brown to have those types of shooting nights, but they've got proven veterans and guys who are playing team basketball that are kind of able to pick up the slack when those situations do arise. And Holiday had a good overall all around night tonight. I don't know his stats off the top of my head. 17, 5, and 4, and then he had 3 blocks. So to me, that's an unbelievable night from one of your guards. To be that aggressive on the defensive end, and that's not a surprise to anybody. But that's why they brought him over here.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, and Ben, this is obviously correct, but it's also annoying, because why do you need an option? Why do you need a hierarchy? I understand late in the game if you're looking for one bucket and you want to.
I think he's the second. I actually think I don't think this is accurate. I think.
But why do you need to say, well, first to Tatum, then to just run an offense? Like, that's the point. That's what you have these guys for. That's what you're supposed to be able to do, particularly if you're allowing White to run the offense. Just play basketball. It's not, I hate the idea of, well, I'm going to feed Tatum, and if it's not Tatum, it's going to be Porzingis, and then who knows, maybe we'll get a kick out. I hate when Brown is relegated just to a guy standing in the corner. Just run the offense, move the ball.
It's always Tatum.
If you got 5 guys, all of whom you're comfortable, who can score comfortably and all of whom can create their own shots, why are you limiting yourself? I don't really understand that late in games.
It's the same, John. It goes all the way back to Doc Rivers. Everybody knew, and the Celtics had a lot of options, but who was getting the ball in crunch time? And what was the shot going to be? It was going to be Paul Pierce. It was going to be ISO, and you were going to live and die by it. And now it's just a different player, different coach, same idea. It's going to be Jason Tatum. It's going to be ISO. It's going to be live and die by it. I think Brown gets the nod secondly. I think when
when Tatum's out, yeah,
that's what I mean. When Tatum's out, I mean, it's going to Brown. They've even said it's public knowledge. This isn't breaking news. Missoula's even said this. It's like we have Tatum and Brown on our team, and then we have a guy, a bunch of guys after that when it comes to down the stretch, final sort of last couple of plays. Everybody knows that's what it's going to be, and I agree with you. It's not right. It should be more creative, get some other guys involved. Porzingis is a savage, and he can score from literally all over the court, just like those other 2 guys can. And it doesn't end with him. White can is in the same way, but Porzingis has a height advantage that, again, I don't think they utilize as much as they need. I don't think they look to Porzingis nearly as much as they could or should. I think when Porzingis is aggressive, that's when you start to see his numbers creep up in any given game. But a lot of that is self-made. It's almost like, to an extent, to a much lesser extent, it's like Rob Williams. Rob did not have the clout or the offensive polished game to take it upon himself to, be aggressive and score and be somebody that they could count on offensively. And because of that, he was completely forgotten. Unless he was getting an alley-oop, a lob from, Tatum or Marcus, it wasn't happening. Porzingis obviously is a much more polished offensive player, but he needs to be aggressive and focus on that. Otherwise, it's not going to happen, because I don't feel enough guys on the team.
He took 17 shots tonight.
He was aggressive, but
yeah, they force fed him. Yeah.
Tonight might not be the best example, but it's been the case for the majority of this season, John. Go back and look at field goal attempts for Porzingis and compare it to Tatum and Brown. And, you could probably even toss White in there for certain games. If Porzingis isn't focused on that, it's not going to happen. These guys need to look for him more. Because he's as good as he's playing this year, he could be even better.
Okay. I've been told Bobby Manning is going to grace us with a guest appearance. This is more of a cameo.
I don't believe it.
He's not really staying.
Oh, he's blessing us.
Yeah. He's not really sticking it out, but he's gonna hang for a bit. I believe I have.
Everybody, get your
I'm sorry.
questions in.
I believe I have some Joe comments. Something. Oh boy, something about Buddy Hield talking trash. Back and forth with Gary. I don't know what happened. Did I miss something? I guess I'll just play it. Who's talking? Who's talking trash? I don't understand this. Who is talking trash?
Buddy Hield.
Yeah, I don't understand this. Yeah, Hield was talking trash. Buddy Hield was talking trash to the bench. Okay, that's what it was. And it's a Washburn. I don't know. Who cares? Washburn, Missoula. That's more interesting than Buddy Hield.
And he was talking to the bench and your coaching staff. What's the etiquette on
etiquette?
Or is there some kind of rules?
Country club?
No, I'm just saying. But he's shooting baskets after timeouts.
The rule is we're supposed to go block it. That's the rule. That's the etiquette. So
it's your guy's fault.
Yes. We're supposed to block shots when the other team shoots at our basket. That's the rule.
Okay, so you got to talk to your guys about that.
Yes.
Okay.
He was form shooting in front of our bench, so I was waiting for him to go take a shot, and I would have blocked it myself, but he didn't shoot it. He was form shooting. So was he shooting at the basket or was he form shooting?
No, he was shooting the basket.
And then we're supposed to block those.
What was going on with him and your coaching staff? Because it seemed like there was some Sam ran out there.
Yeah, it's the rule.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, that was what Sam was supposed to do.
Yes.
Okay. And then there was talk between, was it good-natured? Or
yeah, it was great-natured. Buddy Hill's a great guy. He's a great-natured guy. Remember, he's the same guy that admitted to his fault at the end of the other game. Remember that? So he's a really good guy.
And he took the 3 at the end of the season tournament game.
Great guy. Within the rules. I love that he did that.
You do?
Yes. It's part of the rules. I mean, it's part of the game.
I don't even know what to make of that.
I'm gonna fax my dog the whole soundbite.
Fax my dog it, dude.
Fax my dog.
Whatever.
And move on to the next thing. I'm gonna go to this super chat for 2 reasons. One,
I don't know how to even react.
I don't know. I'm gone. I was getting glazed over as it
I'm
went
just
through.
like, okay. I'm just, if I was at the press conference, I should be like, okay.
So I want to put up this chat for 2 reasons. One, the frigging nickname Shaquille Oatmeal, I love. And then what's it going to take to get the PB&J Porzingis Brown Jason nickname trending? I don't know. It's not bad. I don't see it, but I like the creativity. So yeah, I'll give you that. PB&J.
PB&J. You know what it is? It's too cute. It's not killer enough. I don't want cute nicknames, guys.
Joe's a meatball is a pretty good.
What did Brown say? Cookies and cream for him and Porzingis? No,
he didn't say that. Joe did. Brown adopted it.
Oh, okay. Well,
Joe came up with it.
Oh, Joe came up with it. I saw Brown tweet it, so I thought maybe he came.
He did.
But the answer is no to that too. That's too cutesy. Like, no title has ever been won by a team led by Cookies and Cream or PB&J. Like, let's try to find something a little bit tougher than that guy. Boston Pea Party. That's a different story for my guy Pritchard. But
yeah, Joe's pretty cringy. But I would like to see a Gary and Joe sitcom. Would be great.
Well, I was like, right off the bat, Gary says the word etiquette, and Joe has to jump down his throat. Etiquette is a normal word. It's not just used for country clubs. There is proper etiquette. Now, I must have missed this back and forth about. Did you see this live with Hield in the bench, John? I didn't see this.
I missed it. I can't even.
He was shooting. He was shooting basketball shots.
Let's get Bobby in here.
There he is, Bobby. Can you take us through the back and forth between Gary and Joe regarding Buddy Hield's shot taking? I guess
not only get over it, but tell us why we should care.
Yeah.
In terms of what, the exchange or what Buddy did or the coaches?
For any reason at all. Why am I still talking about it?
I don't think it was much. I saw Buddy in the locker room, catching up with Gary there, and I don't want to jump on Gary's reporting, but did kind of sound like it was just some playful banter. They all kind of made up after the game. Charles Lee, Tony Dobbins, Sam Cassell all went over and just kind of dapped him up. But there were a couple exchanges during the game following him shooting on the basket after the play. And then there was one inbounds play on the Celtics end where he was going back and forth with the Celtics coaches, again, namely Cassell, Dobbins.
And he's gone. Thank you very much, Bobby.
That was Bobby. That was our
That was
minute with Bobby.
everybody who was waiting to see Bobby last night's show.
You know how
tonight.
like when you trade somebody in the middle of a season and you decide whether to give them a ring and or a playoff share. Like I don't know what kind of playoff share Bobby's going to get here. Let's try it again. You froze, so I kicked you out.
Yeah. So again, I don't think there was a ton to it, at least from the reaction on either side. I didn't catch Joe, but I'm sure he shrugged it off too.
Yeah.
Joe in the press conference shrug it
All
off.
right, Bobby.
Yeah.
Bobby, you're here only for a small
that.
small fraction of time. Why don't you tell us what you do find interesting?
About this game, I
Yeah.
continue to look at the Pacers as a team that could push the Celtics pretty far into a series in the second round. And as I map out how the East might stack up here, they are going to have an uphill battle to get into round two if they're going up against the Knicks, Sixers, potentially even the Celtics round one. It does feel like they're probably in the lower half of the East, though I do think they'll land in that 4-5 spot, especially with Siakam now. He's a good fit. I think you saw that tonight. Started a little slow. We talked to him a little bit after the game. Seems like he's still getting up to speed on a lot of different things. Rick Carlisle talked about that before the game. Their offense just moves so fast, and he's a little bit more of a methodical, break you down player in the post. But, I went back and watched that Mavericks game they played before this, and he had some big post plays down the stretch of that game to close it out. They got it to him pretty methodically late in that game. And they tried tonight, right? That final comeback push, he's on the offensive glass. He made a big difference in that regard, and that's usually an area where the Celtics dominate. Nesmith found some open cutting lanes behind him, and then almost got that three-pointer off to tie the game there. So he was amazing in this one as well. I don't think, John, as much as you loved him, and I generally liked him, I don't think in our wildest dreams we saw a 26, 12, and 7 game from Aaron Nesmith.
I didn't. Again, I don't.
Tonight.
It's not. And again, the rebound. I mean, he's just no. I didn't. But
he was in full control tonight, wasn't he?
He was awesome. He finished strong. He looked good. He didn't
It's not something you say about Nesmith often, that he's in full control.
I feel like he gets better every time we see him.
But that's the best way to put it. Is he's the energy and the speed with which he plays the game, which he did here, usually resulted on him falling like horizontal to the floor from like 10 feet up, and all of his like arms and legs and knees and back hitting at the same time, and that would happen like 4 times a game, and now he's far more in control. You're not seeing that kind of bull in a china shop sort of thing. But just to clarify it again, I never thought Nesmith was good. I actually didn't think he was earning his minutes. I really only thought there was no downside to playing him more. That was always my only thing. Him and Romeo. I just wanted to see. Just stop. I just wanted to see in a definitive way if given an opportunity they could play. And the answer might have turned out to be no for both. Certainly no for Romeo and possibly maybe for Nesmith, or you might have, but not seeing what you had in 2 lottery picks during that lost Tristan Thompson friggin' year, that killed me. That crap team. Why in the world weren't you giving them some minutes? And why were you yo-yoing him the next year as well? That drove me crazy.
2 different coaches, yeah.
Yeah, and you pissed away an asset, and I understand, a first-year coach coming in, he wants to win now, and he doesn't want to, build and grow. And Brad might have felt he was losing control of things in that final year, so maybe it wasn't the best growth environment. But yeah, they just jerked him around. That's what bugged me the most.
It's not about.
He was bad. He couldn't shoot. He was out of control. The offense was a mess when he was in there.
He was a danger to himself.
He would foul all the time. He was terrible.
It's not about, John, did you make the wrong move there? Because I don't think anyone looks at it as that, especially you get Brogdon for that year and then his salary turns into Holiday. It went extremely well for the Celtics, both of those trades. But you did have an NBA starter level player in terms of talent in the building and couldn't figure out a way to integrate and develop them. Now, they've improved since then.
it got you down the road that got you to Holiday, but
Yeah.
assuming you can't sign everyone, what's better? Neesmith on a controllable contract?
See, I'm not going to go that far.
Or nobody. You know what I mean? It's like, because if you end
Or
up just being in a
nobody.
position
That's
where
a
you can't,
reach.
no, what I'm
Yeah, I
saying
think
is,
you're reaching on this one.
no, I'm not, because if you end up in a position where you can't pay everybody, you're just going to lose somebody. You know what I mean? That's what I mean. If Holiday leaves because there's not enough money there, yeah, you got a year of Brogdon, year or whatever, but you needed to reload with younger players somewhere along the line. You needed your Maxey, Maxey being elite level, but you needed that guy who was affordable and on a rookie deal and controllable for 7 years when you have this much high price talent. And again, he'd be a nice piece to have. But again, you have Holiday and you're a championship contender.
To be fair, they did pull Pritchard out of that draft too. Yeah. So that worked
Which
out.
was a
in
bad
that
pick.
sense.
Yeah, it was a bad pick.
Yeah, but he's a rotation player every night.
Pritchard was a bad pick?
I mean, he was fine, but they draft Bane a few picks later and give him away. And
I don't think Pritchard was a bad pick.
I think it's a solid pick.
Yeah, but based on where they took it, I mean, yeah, John, you can pick and choose the best guy in the draft and be like, oh, that was a bad pick. Let me say this: there are multiple ways to be a contender in the NBA, and there are different points within that window that you're at. The Celtics are trending towards the veteran side of being a contender, and yeah, you can say that Tatum and Brown are young and all that stuff, but the truth is they've got veterans all up and down this starting lineup now with Porzingis, Holiday. Like it or not, Tatum and Brown are veterans. Al Horford's obviously a veteran as your sixth man. And the Pacers are in a different position. They're a younger team. They've got Halliburton. I guess he's like really their youngest piece there. They do have some couple of veterans, and Siakam somewhere in the middle. But, and again, John, it's right time, right place. You can say what you want about Neesmith and the fact that they didn't give him an opportunity. And yeah, I think they should have given him an opportunity too. But are the Celtics? No, I think people get it. But are the Celtics better Are the Celtics better this year with Holiday or?
They're better. They won.
Neesmith?
They won.
Are the Celtics better last year? Are the Celtics better last year with Neesmith or my guy? What's his name? Bobby.
He couldn't be that important if you're forgetting
my Pacers guy. Throw me a life raft.
Who? The guy who went out in the trade?
TJ McConnell?
No, guys. The
Tice.
No.
Who are you talking about?
Sixth man of the year.
Brogdon.
Thank you.
Haven't we said his name 100 times?
Yeah, I know. I wasn't paying attention. Thank you.
I thought you were talking about
what I'm saying.
No, they would have been better off with Brogdon.
Celtics were better last year with Brogdon, and they're better this year with Holiday. So, John, yes, I understand your point. But yeah, it would have been nice if they understood who Neesmith was when they had him, but they didn't, and they got rid of him. And since then, they've probably been better without him, and he's better without them too. So it's probably
That's
win-win.
a good point.
And yeah, it would be nice to have a couple young guys in the holster to come off the bench and do your thing. But the Celtics are a veteran team at this point. Their window is their window. And at some point, John, we're going to be talking about a team that's going to really need to make some decisions on some of these veterans and whether or not they can rebuild through the draft and have the second coming of this team and keep Tatum and Brown.
I get it.
That's really
it's hard to look. It's hard to look and say it didn't work out. Of course, it worked out. All I'm saying is not drafting and developing 2 lottery picks and not even giving them a chance is a fail of the organization. But they lucked into it. Or Brad pulled off some wizardry. Yeah, you find the right dance partners. You're able to get what you want to get. You got situations.
I think some of it is also
teams wanted to move off of stuff, right? Porzingis was gone, and they just got basically moving money around to get him. Indiana didn't want Brogdon anymore, so you were able to get him super on the cheap. San Antonio wanted to get off of White after they just gave him a contract because they wanted to free up cap space because they knew which direction they were headed, which is into Tankapalooza, and they didn't want to be tied to that stuff, and they wanted to have flexibility down the road. So you walk into that. So they walked into a lot of great deals without having to give up a ton there. And Neesmith was clearly like a throwaway into that trade. He wasn't
that's the
like
question,
a
right?
piece.
Did they need
But you do, because you've been dying for some sort of wing depth, and somebody who could come in there.
No, I'm saying Indy in that trade.
Yeah.
No, they didn't. They got lucky. They're like, holy shit, this was pretty good, and now they're happy. So
I don't know
it worked out
I don't know what Indy saw in Neesmith, because I
It
think
worked
the
out for
whole
everybody.
problem was
It was a
Neesmith-
flyer.
When Neesmith did get his opportunity, and this is partially Neesmith's fault. He didn't get a ton of opportunities, but when he did, I wouldn't say he made them count. He kind of ran around like a chicken without his head.
They were so short, and he's even talked about that, how there's pressure that if you're going to miss a shot out there, you're done. And he talked about that with us, John, when he came on the Garden Report. It was like, oh, are you sometimes out there, like I make one mistake and I'm out of there. And, he kind of admitted, yeah, that's the feeling you have out there sometimes. So
yeah,
they didn't do him
said
any
that Jason Tatum didn't know his name.
Did he say that?
No, but I was trying to get him to say it. I'm like, do those guys like talk to you?
Remember the 2 locker rooms?
Because they wouldn't pass to him. Remember, we're watching.
Yeah, they're like, wait,
they will not give that freaking guy the. Who's this guy? Is he on our team?
Remember the 2 locker rooms?
Huh?
You tell.
They had 2 locker rooms that year.
Yeah.
No.
The COVID year. You had like the Stay Ready crew in their own little, locker room.
Was he in the Stay Ready crew back then? He must have been.
Yeah, he was.
He was always ready. He was always ready. He would come out there, he'd put a helmet on and run around 100 miles an hour and just take out people and take out himself too. I think that's why they had to get rid of him. He was a menace to society over here.
I love how there's one guy in the league, maybe there's more, who goes into this matchup and just wants to destroy them. And Halliburton, I talked to Halliburton tonight, and he said that's how he feels. Like, he always wants revenge in this matchup. He's always going at the Celtics. He still feels slighted by that trade and the reaction to that trade in particular. And he said that's big for them. That's something that seems to kind of energize them. There were a couple of plays tonight, John, that white turnover in the corner. That bench is just going crazy over there. And you can tell that the Celtics are just kind of rolling their eyes and being like, come on, it's January. Like the massive runs, the comebacks in this game. It's great that the Celtics pulled themselves out of it, because the Pacers have treated all of these games like a playoff game. And they've gotten a few on the Celtics too. And it's been an interesting matchup this year, Jimmy, too. I know we've
their younger brother, Bobby.
Yeah. And I know we've kicked around like how big of a threat they'd be, where they rank in terms of the threats in the East for the Celtics here. They haven't been in a playoff situation, and that's the big thing. It's going to be much different. The rotations, of course, the intensity, the game planning, all of that. But they're making strides fast. And a guy like Siakam does add some legitimacy to them. A guy who's been to the championship, a guy who's been in tough series. It doesn't put them on the level of the Celtics, but it makes you think that they could stand with them in a couple of different situations where they might not have been previously. And listen, I like Bruce Brown. I like what he did for them. I think he's a phenomenal role player, but he's not a Siakam level presence. And we're just kind of seeing the beginning of what Siakam can bring to that team. And again, I really like what we're seeing so far, John. I know they dropped the first couple games with him, and he's kind of been a little erratic in terms of the production, but he gives them that slowdown factor, right? Because this team, they're just flying up and down the court trying to race you up the floor. And that was kind of their game previously. And now you have a guy that you can throw it to.
He worked Kristaps a few times.
Yeah, work the defense in the half court.
And he just backs people in, and he's just right. He's there. He's right at the rim. It's pretty. I think once they figure it out, I think he's a perfect fit for them.
Really good trade.
Yeah.
Well, think about it like this too. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but Halliburton hasn't even played with him until tonight. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So this is the beginning of what they're
They'll
looking
figure
for.
it out.
Yeah,
he played 22 minutes. He's on a pitch count tonight, so.
Yeah, and this is the very beginning of it. So they have. I mean, we're not even at the All-Star break yet, Bobby. They have all the time in the world to get on the same page. And the other thing about Siakam is not only does he have, been there, done that a little bit, but he's been in battles with the Celtics. So if they're trying to find a guy that knows how to play against this Boston team, there probably wasn't a better option out there in terms of guys who were available when you consider the amount of games.
Oh yeah, Halliburton did come back for a game, right?
Okay, he did. Okay, when you can compare the amount of games that Siakam has played against the Celtics, that's a guy that just has more history, more. He's been around it for enough time, so they'll be fine. they're going to be a tough out. But yeah, to your point, Bobby, they're an upstart. This is kind of like a great story type organization, and they might just be a little bit too happy to be there.
And that, I talked to Rick before the game, and he said that's the biggest thing they're trying to avoid. Because I asked, how does it feel to be ahead of schedule, with this group? Like, you come into the year expecting that this game tonight was supposed to be Halliburton's first career game on national TV. This was the game he circled going into the year. Then, of course, they go to the in-season tournament and just destroy the Celtics on TNT in that game earlier this year.
This was their first?
No, this was supposed to be Halliburton's first.
That's what I mean.
Game.
Are you kidding?
But
right,
they ended up playing it in the in-season tournament earlier this year.
How is that possible? That you don't just?
He was playing for the Kings.
Oh yeah, I guess.
And then this Pacers team.
You don't back into a 10 o'clock one. But yeah, you're right. They weren't.
No one wanted to see the Kings, John.
No one wanted to see them 2 years ago. Yeah.
Bobby, just about this.
Yeah, but I'm saying this year, I'm surprised. But anyway,
on this game tonight, anything stood out to you that we haven't touched upon yet? Any player specifically that you thought impressed on the Celtics? We did spend a little bit of time on Keita to start. Just the points and the rebounds don't really tell the story, but he did lead the team in plus minus tonight. He was obviously out there at a point where the Celtics went on a little bit of a run. Is he a guy that is sliding into at least a reserve of a reserve role where they can kind of go to? Because at the beginning of the year, we were saying like there's 6 guys and then there's 7 guys and there's nobody. It didn't seem like Joe really trusted anybody, but now it seems like he's a little bit more inclined to go to Keita when Luke isn't in there or whoever, depending on the situation.
Yeah, the fact that you can put him in there when 2 bigs are down and have him play reliable backup big minutes is extremely impressive and overdue. I think, they haven't utilized that 2-way spot in recent years to get a rotation player. And I'm not talking like that's easy to do, but different teams have done it. And it's the best value signing in the NBA to get this kind of production out of a guy who's supposed to be in Maine, for the brunt of this year. He's been in Boston this whole way. So there's no rush to add him to the active roster. They're going to keep assessing his health over the coming months and his consistency and, his ability to actually impact the team and his minutes. But he keeps doing it every night in and night out. And Joe actually mentioned him before the game alongside O'Shea as the guys deeper on the bench who are starting to gain trust. The fact that you can throw them into these games and get positive results out of his minutes. I think you look at 3 things with him. The uncanny offensive rebounding just continues to show. The screening. There was another play tonight where he just completely freed Tatum for a spot up 3. And then, of course, he really does finish physically in the lane on that jump ball. Of course, one of the highlight energy plays of the night, him just tearing through everybody there. He's fun. And there's some sloppy moments. Again, we've compared it to Rob, and I know he's not a Rob level prospect.
It's very much Rob year one vibes,
But there's some stuff you see when he comes through there. So I think you hold on to him. When the time comes, you sign him. They have till the end of the year to do it to make him playoff eligible. So again, there's no rush here. I haven't kept track of
You can convert that late, and you're saving money, right? Because you don't get penalized.
That's the other thing. You don't get taxed for the days. You might for the days he's active on the roster, but at a much lower rate, obviously. So they're going to wait till the end of the year on that, obviously. Feels like he's a shoo-in to make the roster at that point. And we'll see. Maybe they trade a couple guys for one at the deadline, and then he steps right into that spot. But, man, I love the signing at first because this is a guy I've watched in Summer League a couple years now who really looked good out there in Vegas, and the Kings like them. I'm still stunned they cut him for JaVale McGee. And he's given them –
I love JaVale McGee, man. I wish JaVale McGee entered like I feel like JaVale McGee in a previous life would have done like a quick stint on the Celtics, like in the 2008 years. Bobby, let me ask you this. Trade deadline's coming up. Celtics, it seems like Joe, again, not just with Keita, but with, we'll say, Brissett, we'll say, obviously, Hauser, Pritchard gets burned, Horford when he's in the game. It seems like they've got 9-10 guys now that Joe's pretty confident in going to. Are they just letting the trade deadline pass them by at this point? I mean, do they have enough where they feel like there's not going to be a reason to give up assets or really shake up this bench based on where this team is at right now. Could we just see a very quiet trade deadline and a very quiet, buyout, time as well, where they're just like, this is our roster for better or worse?
It depends on the opportunity, because I do think if you find a guy that can play, we've talked about the bottom end of that bench where it's just Lamar Stevens, Shvima Hyluk, guys who
But do those
aren't
guys
gonna
matter? Do those guys
I'm
even
just saying,
matter?
if you could consolidate a couple of those guys into one guy who could give you something that you don't have now, that 4 role, I think in particular on this roster, Brissett's filled it well. The shooting, though, can he be out there in a playoff situation against a playoff
Know if
defense
he
with the
would be.
shooting?
Right.
It's difficult to forecast that, and that's
Keita?
the trouble I've had. Brissett.
We're talking Keita.
Brissett.
Sorry, because Brissett to me, that's going to kill you there. It's
Yeah.
like,
And man, he was so good at the end of that
they're
Pelicans
going to be
game.
terrified. They're going to be terrified to put him in.
But theoretically, they wouldn't need to unless
They wouldn't need to, and that's kind
They
of the
won't.
mindset.
Foul trouble only, I would say. Foul
Yeah.
trouble or injury. But if a Jay picks up 2 or 3 fouls early and you need some minutes, that's probably where you'll see it, but not regularly.
Yeah.
Also, you know what though? If you ever want to play small ball too, I think that you can do that a little bit more. If you want to go Tatum in a small ball lineup at the 5 during those bench rotations and not have to do a Cornet or a Keita, I don't mind seeing
They've
that as well.
experimented with that a little.
I'd like to see them roll into that a little more. I actually get a little annoyed that we see more, and it's not a knock on either Cornet or Keita, but I'd like to see us play. I'd like to see that. I've seen it a couple times. A couple times it's looked really good. A couple times it's been a mixed bag.
Yeah, we got to start playing smaller, John.
Why?
You slipped in a we there.
I did say we.
Yeah, I think there's some interesting guys around the league who I would like to see them add, just because there's some steadier names out there, if they're available, who you feel good about putting in. Not when they're fully healthy. As Jimmy said, I think they're thinking if they're fully healthy, they're going to be playing 7 guys. And you're not even thinking about Brissett, Cornet. It's going to be that tight rotation you'd expect to see. But you still need one guy to come through. Mm-hmm. And I think Pritchard's starting to show more and more he might be capable of doing that. Hauser had a really good last pair of games here after going into a little bit of a slump. And those 2 guys have been pretty consistent throughout the year. So it's tough to tell, because you go and look at this bench and you're like, a lot of these guys haven't played playoff minutes. You don't know how to forecast that. Can they step in if someone else gets hurt and play that role reliably? Those are all the questions you're asking right now. But when you look up every night and that bench is giving you what it's giving you pretty much every night, I don't think we've complained about the bench since like November. I think it's tough to go out there and really make a aggressive move for a bench guy. Like, we've kicked around a first for Conchar. Feels a little over aggressive for who he is and what he'd provide. Does like a second or 2 really move teams off a guy that they like? Certainly, I know Najee Marshall's been kicked around. I don't know what makes the Pelicans move off a guy like that who's in their rotation. Fontecchio, I think, is just a little redundant with Hauser. So some of these names we keep kicking around, I just don't think move the needle much. So I know it's a different game come playoff time, but when push comes to shove, you talked about it right before in this previous segment, John, they're going to need some of these picks to start replacing the bottom end of the roster and have some cost control guys into the future. So even though I am always team throw the picks away and go all in now, the circumstances are starting to change a little bit there. And I do think that Muscala deal is minimal as the
drink.
As minimal as the assets were going out in that trade, they didn't get anything for it. And so is there a hesitancy to do something like that this year when that guy you get might never play and never do anything for you? There might have been a little bit of a lesson learned there in terms of what they did last year. And I think Brad said when we talked to him a month or 2 ago, it's going to be tough to make a move here. And as you've said, John, a lot of their moves were made over the summer. They were going to look at it and assess, and if things changed in terms of health, or maybe they went on a big skid, they might look into doing something a little bit more aggressive. But right now, we're a week and 2 days out, 9 days out. I would bet on FanDuel, no moves, if you could.
Huh? Maybe they'll put that prop up there as we near closer to it. Okay, I'm with you, Bobby. I'm betting no moves as well.
So you believe in the bench?
It's not that I believe in them. I just think they're good enough to get you to where you need to go, and then you might
Sadiq Bey is a good name.
not need to rely on them that much. I think there are some teams that need to rely on a bench a lot more than the Celtics do. So with that being said, I don't think they need to be as active, or I'm not gonna say panic, but I don't think they need to feel obligated as much to shore up the bench when I think you've got your 6th, 7th, and 8th guys, and even 9 if you want to toss in Brissett, and then 10 if you want to toss in Keita. So it's like, who are you going to get? And again, I'm not saying that Brissett and Keita are, mainstays on the roster, but I just don't know what you're willing to give up that's going to be better than what those guys can already give you. They've been with the team. They're starting to get acclimated. They're starting to get more comfortable. They give you what you need. You're not asking them to do too much. You have scorers. You just need those guys to come in, be aggressive, play defense, grab rebounds, which they could have used tonight. If Brissett's a guy that's been able to do that, be active on the glass and just give you energy out there and spot minutes. I think we all agree that if this Celtics team, and again, knock on wood, if they end up losing an important player on their team, they're not going to be able to replace that with anything close. They're very top heavy. The bench isn't capable of filling in those positions, and there's nobody available that they're going to be able to grab, whether it's before the deadline or in a buyout or anything close. So they just need to focus on staying healthy, which I know that's not really something you can focus on, but cross your fingers, I guess. Play good basketball and go into the playoffs on a high note, playing good team ball, and I think it's theirs to lose, regardless of what they do at the trade deadline.
I like this name here, but this is the challenge again, John.
That's Joe Swain's guy.
Yeah. And from that 2020 draft, we were just kicking around with Neesmith. He's not playing well this year.
Joe Sway can't stop, right, with him?
He's 41 from the field this year, 30 from 3. That Hawks team's going down the toilet fast. And obviously they're kicking around trading Murray right now, which I think would be deciding to sell here. He's in the last year of his rookie deal, so you'd have to pay him this summer. Can you pay another guy at this point? It doesn't feel like it.
No.
Maybe he doesn't earn much. That would probably be the scenario where you're looking at and say, like, okay, we only have to pay this guy $6 million a year. But, that cap keeps going up to the point where I think someone explained it to me the other day. Soon enough, the average player salary in this league is going to be like $19 million. So I think your days of getting guys for like $6 million, even a guy at the low end of your rotation, is probably over now.
Bay's way better. To me, he has, at least his potential is way higher than just a guy that you're going to just be able to get.
He's a big wing, 6'7", 215.
Yeah. And he's still young.
Shooter.
You know what I mean? Like it's Neesmith vibes.
I just don't think you rent a guy like that, and I don't think they can pay him. So it's an interesting name. I think he fits what they need. It's better than Brissett, but again, you're working on that shoestring budget now, John, at that end of the rotation, aren't you? And the reason people like Conchar, I know he's not a popular name, but he's locked in at 6 for a couple years, and he's used to not playing on certain nights. And then when he needs to get in, he can
people forget that all the
roles.
time. That matters. You have to have somebody who's okay. A lot of times you see these names, and there's people who are in contract years who are playing 20, 25 minutes a night and want to come in. Who was who's the big who went to Toronto? I'm drawing a blank here that you really wanted.
Pirtle.
Yeah.
Pirtle. But Pirtle would have come here to play 15 minutes as a backup, and it that doesn't work. You can't bring in a guy who you want to be your, and granted there's more depth last year. This year, you will promise minutes. Somebody comes in at a decent, who's a decent name. They're coming in probably as your number 7 or 8 guy. So they will play 10, 15, 18 minutes, but you can't bring in somebody who wants to play 20, 25 minutes and wants the world to know that he's great just to be like a 10-minute a game, stay ready crew, guy, or possibly fall out of. That doesn't work. People aren't going to necessarily want that. I think that's what, that could hurt them in some buyout stuff, but you got to have a guy who's willing to do whatever and be happy to be along for the ride. Usually that means veteran, as opposed to, there's some people that just don't fit that mold. So you do have to be careful about who that is.
Bobby, we had a super chat a few minutes ago. Our Orion Zarina, again, I don't know if I'm saying the name right. Anyways, he said, what do you think of David Roddy?
Oh,
Not crazy about him.
no.
Well,
Got
I
a
didn't
young-
ask the question. I'm just reading it.
The thing about David Roddy, who comes in at 22, decent numbers, not a great shooter. You need to develop. It's back to Neesmith, right? You can't just throw him on the bench and then when you need him, be like, go out there and play good. Or else
Right.
you can't do that with a young guy. So you need someone like a Conchar, and I'm just going to keep going back to that name if you can get him for a couple seconds, because obviously you stacked up on seconds in this last draft moving back. He plays 18 minutes a night. He's made 8 starts for them, so he can step in when necessary. Obviously, they're absolutely devastated by injury, so take that with a grain of salt. The numbers aren't great from 3, but he's 36 for his career on 1 or 2 a game. Doesn't score a ton, but really good in defensive metrics last year. He's a pretty versatile defender. He's 27, so he's older. And again, the most important thing, if you just need to put him on the bench and not play him because you're fully healthy, he's fine with that. And his contract, again, important for this team. $6 million this year. He comes in at, I think, $6 million next year. It's a pretty level contract.
Just get
3
ready
years,
for Kelly
$6 million a year.
Olynyk. Let's stop messing around. Just get ready for Kelly O. Prepare yourself for it. That's what it's going to be.
That'd be so frustrating.
You like that one?
I actually do.
The Jazz are hanging in there a little, and I know he's on.
This is a
expiring
funny name.
contract, but.
We're not
How
sure.
many years are we going to talk about him and Yam?
Oh God, what's up with Yam?
They can't
Same
play.
thing that's up
They
with
can't play
Begarin.
basketball.
Right, they're just in another country playing basketball.
This happens
and
all
not-
the time.
and-
Do you have
and-
an
and
example
not
from years
well.
ago, John?
I don't know. There's tons of them, but I mean, you always
But
want
with
these
Taco,
guys.
let's get Taco back. What's he doing? They could
No,
use some
you get
hype.
these guys and you stash them, and then you hear these rumors. I remember the one. It might have been.
Shane Larkin.
It might have been.
Somebody says.
It might have been the first year Yabu was there, and I remember there was like a couple of.
Sucks, man.
I think I can't remember who it was. It might have been Mannix. We were in the NBC newsroom. I forget who it was, but it was somebody plugged in, and like I remember that year they were talking about like a redraft or like the top 5 prospects, and somebody had put out a list, and like the Celtics had 2 of them. And one of them was Yabu, and the other was who was the other guy they ended up dishing, who was a big
Ante Zizic.
Yeah, Zizic. And
Wow,
they were
wow.
both in the top 5 of like potential guys.
He's in the
and,
Kyrie trade.
Yeah, and I was talking about Yabu and this and that, and the person I was talking to, and I was like, wow, they're talking him up big. Could this be good? And he looks at me and goes, oh, Yabu can't play. And I was like, what? And they're like, oh, he's terrible. He's terrible. He can't play. He's never gonna. And I was like, why is everyone saying it? He's like, I honestly don't know. He's like,
He's like funny to look at.
yeah, he's like, he can't play at all. Like, no chance. But like, there was buzz, the French Draymond Green, you know. Oh,
God. That was so sad.
And it's funny because
And
when
then he
Dan,
did like he had like some sort of little move.
he
that
did the arrow.
Yeah, he did the arrow, and everyone died about it, and that was it.
That was now he's in Madrid.
Yeah,
and that was it.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, no, when you
all right.
stash guys, they're almost never coming over. It's like the TPE, which we talk about all year, in almost all scenarios, just disappears and becomes nothing.
I remember Semi Erden from Turkey,
Oh, I
second
remember
round pick.
Semi.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
He had some promise. He had some promise.
Yeah. It
Celebration
never
is an
works.
elite skill. Who's the big celebration guy a couple years ago they brought in? 2021, I think.
I don't
Can't
know.
remember his name.
Not
I think he might
important.
have went to Butler. All he did was
really?
celebrate. Whole
Hmm.
time he was here. The chat's gonna get it.
Really?
We'll wait for the chat. I don't know who that is.
Wasn't Fournier. Probably my worst take on the show, still Fournier.
I haven't even heard it. I haven't seen or heard.
Malik
Of,
Fitz, that was it.
Oh, Fitzy.
there you go. Jake Eisenberg.
Oh,
Podcast
boy.
extraordinaire. From
I knew he'd get it.
in his own right.
Um,
What's up with Fournier, dude? Is he even playing in the league anymore?
the Knicks put him on the bench last year, and he hasn't played since. So he's just been
Tibbs,
on the Knicks bench.
You know
for-
what though? Tibbs
Some
finally got the team he wants, right?
They're a tough one. I wish the Celtics played them soon. I
Tibbs
guess
finally
late
got a
February.
team he wants, that plays defense. Like we were shocked when he was just basically announced a couple years, whenever that was, that Kemba's just not going to play for us anymore. We were like, what? You're like, yeah, I'm just not going to play him. We're like, oh, okay. That's interesting.
Randall just got a tough injury,
it,
though. You guys see
and
that?
it happened to Fournier last year.
Who
He's
did?
like, yeah, he just.
Randall just had a bad shoulder injury.
Oh, I
guess
saw
he
that.
avoided a dodge the bullet on,
Yeah.
but still not great. That could open the door for Porzingis to go to the All-Star game, by the way, if he was going to be there, Randall. So.
Okay. I would take Porzingis over Randall anyways.
Yeah, I don't know how the numbers stack up. He was pretty good. Did you guys kick around his game at all?
Fournier has played in 3 games this year.
That is crazy. I didn't realize it was that bad. I was like half joking.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
I'm
he's done.
3 games this year.
What's
I
he
don't know.
making
I don't know
again?
if there's an injury as well.
He has another year left, right?
He's in the last year of his deal, this
Oh, he's
one,
in the
because they
last
put
year.
the team option at the end. And I think this year he is making, and they keep floating around his deal as potential trade filler, obviously, as expiring money. He's making 18.9 this year.
Oh my God. Imagine if he was on this team, he'd be dead somewhere probably.
Yeah, you'd be giving up another first, right? To move off that.
Oh man, that would be so painful.
I remember he came in, he had a couple 7 for 11 games, and I was just thrilled. And I'll give myself some leeway, John, as you would. At that time, they had absolutely no shooting at all. Tatum and Brown would just drive, kick out to, I don't know if Semi Ojeleye was on that team or who. And it would just be miss. It was probably Romeo and Nesmith, frankly. So they go out starving for shooting and get Fournier. And fortunately, they didn't re-sign him.
Before we go, before the game, Joe was in kind of Joe form again, answering questions, came in, was quick on the injury updates, and then somebody asked him to elaborate, on the medical, the medicals of Kristaps, and he's like, I don't know the medicals. He's like, I'm just a bird brain, right? And that's a direct response to Kendrick Perkins, who said, if you put a bird in Joe Mazzulla's brain,
if you put a brain,
Joe Mazzulla's brain in a bird, the bird would start flying backwards. So
I didn't even pick up on that at first.
So
I guess I'm a bird brain too.
So that's on Joe's mind. After the game, Kristaps Porzingis coming. I don't know if he came to Joe's defense specifically on this, but here he is gushing about just how smart a man and a good basketball mind Joe Mazzulla is.
No, I think Joe is very smart. He is very also like mindset driven. He knows how important the mindset and the mentality is, and that's just who he is. Also, he does jiu-jitsu, he plays chess. He's always trying to evolve also as a coach, as a person, and he translates or transmits that to us. And yeah, he's a young coach, but I think he's very smart. He definitely challenges guys, and that's a great thing. That's a great thing. I think also you have to give credit to JT, JB. He can challenge those guys, and if he can challenge those guys, then he can challenge everybody else also. And so you have to give credit to JB and JT for to be open to that. And I think that's a big part of what makes us a great team. And we need that in the long run and in the most important moments when the playoffs and some high tension situations will come.
Hey, that's some good support from your player right there. I think there's some truth to what. Listen, I mean, you can say whatever you want about Mazzulla, but it does seem that he does focus on sort of mental strength, and I totally believe that he does the jiu-jitsu and he does all that stuff to sort of clear his mind, and he tries to question the answers and that whole type of thing. Perkins, listen, we love Perk. Perk's an NBA champion with the Celtics, and he's even spent some time with
Perk's
us.
a CLNS media,
alum. Yep.
Cornet fan too, if you remember.
I think Perkins probably shouldn't throw stones from a glass house if he wants to talk about smart.
It was a little strong, especially they're in
it
the
was
state
unnecessary. You could criticize him without having to come in like that,
Yeah.
especially since
And
Joe's
I'm
still
not
in this
like
place.
soft or anything. Like it's fine. You want to make fun of a guy, go ahead and make fun of him. But I just feel like, read the room a little bit. Little social awareness might be good for you, Park.
Well, here's the thing too. He's doing a good job this year, which I know we can forecast what the playoffs potentially look like, and we've had that debate numerous times. But if we're just going off
He is
what we've
doing a
seen
good job.
so far this year, it's always the coach, right? It was Ime and it was Brad, and now it's Joe. That's just always how it's gonna go. But this year more than ever, especially the way that they're coaching the team, it's on the players, especially with the group of players that they have. I mean, who really needs to be coached up on this team in terms of younger players? Like, he's coaching the hell out of the bench, obviously, getting them to play some of the effectiveness, with some of the effectiveness that we've seen from them. And you know what I really like about him too, John? We're learning a lot, and I know it can sound like lecturing sometimes, but as you've talked about, we don't know anything about basketball as much as we think we do. And so for him as a coach who can sometimes be ultra paranoid, to open up and kind of, let you in on it sometimes in terms of, talking about how defense connects to offense and some of these things,
It's
you
the
might
way
roll
he
your eyes
does
at
it, Bobby.
sometimes.
It's just the way.
It's the way he does it. And listen, I've been frustrated the last couple of days too, especially after the last game, but I do appreciate it because last year he wouldn't say anything, and that frustrated me much more. So he's allowed to defend himself. He's allowed to, carry himself the way he wants to there. This isn't Belichick, John, even if he does have shades of it at times. So, it comes down to the philosophy. Do you believe in the philosophy? And I said this after the playoffs last year.
On him.
I would have leaned going toward a more experienced coach for this team, one that maybe pulls them with a little bit of a, more forceful rope in terms of controlling the game on the floor, especially in the biggest moments. And I feel like that's still where you feel most nervous with him. But I also said, if this team really believes in the philosophy, roll with it another year because all the excuses were valid. And I think given the support they've given them, given the roster that they've given them, a team that's obviously more bought in, I think Porzingis's comments reflect that, and Drew Holiday's after the game as well.
No doubt. It's not
He
that.
succeeded.
It's you can get them ready for battle heading into it. I think what everyone is concerned about, if anything, is when things get weird, when you're really in it, when the other team's adjusting, are you just going to win by the philosophy and all of the stuff you've instilled beforehand? You've taught them how you want them to play, what they should do in each situation. And then so much of it goes to trust. And I do believe always it's players first, players first, players first. If they do what they're supposed to do, there's a better chance of success. It's not always going to work out, but it's better. But if they're crapping their pants or they're not realizing what's going on, or if you need somebody to jump in there and say, stop doing this, start doing this, or I don't like what we're doing, we have to change it up, or give the friggin' ball to Jalen, or stop jacking shots. Is he going to do it, or does he just let them work through stuff? Jimmy, what's the joke you're not sure whether you should say right now?
I'm not going to say it. No. It's gone. It's in my mind. It's not in my mind.
It's rattling around.
I couldn't help myself last night, and we got tweeted.
I know. So that's all it is. That's all. That's where you get concerned with Joe. I think he's done everything right in terms of like, this is what I want us to do, and here's our game plan. And I want you to go do it. And for the most part, they've executed. Playoffs are a different animal. I think with everything, the wild card is when it gets hot. Tatum, Brown, Missoula. How are they going to do? When everybody's coming at you, when they're letting the physicality go a little bit, more, and Tatum's really not getting those calls, and things aren't working the way that you want, and the defense really amps up, and the threes aren't falling. Like, what do we do? Just keep shooting, just keep learning. I love you. Like, I don't know that works. You kind of want a guy who's going to be like, stop, do this instead, and it's, can Joe be that guy? Or I see what they're doing, we're now going to do this. And
that's the big one, right? We haven't
you won't know it until you see it, and that's all.
We haven't seen a ton of that. I think game 6 and 7 against Philly, good examples of him adjusting and making some changes and turning a series around. But there wasn't a ton of it last postseason that he had to do. And
Yeah.
obviously Philly put them in a tough position to begin with in terms of how that series went from the start. So there's still questions, certainly. But who would do better with this roster if they need a guy to just constantly be on top of them? Like, how long would that Ime approach have lasted? I think sometimes we got to ask that, as big of a fan as I am of Ime. Other
Tommy
coaches
Heinsohn
around the
in
league
there,
have
yeah.
certainly struggled too. And these like feels like Darvin Ham's really losing control of that Lakers team after doing a good job last year. And obviously things went the way they did in Milwaukee. So this is the case with every team. You know, you sometimes got to look around the league for comparisons, and you know, he's up there in terms of the job he's doing with any coach this year. I know Nick Nurse got tossed around. He's done a great job this year. You know, there's some other examples, I'm sure, but
in terms of the film and the preparation and the philosophy and how much he puts into it and how much he understands the game and how much, you know, he factors into the type of basketball that he wants him to play and how much he keeps hammering that home. Yeah, he's a grinder. You know, he's a guy who's in there, and you know,
and he has a lot of help this year. I know we keep saying
he devours
it.
this stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Lee,
So I do think the front
Cassell,
end prep is fine. It's how you do it in the playoffs. But
Jeff
we've
Van
been going
Gundy's here every week. You know, like they have a lot of help behind them.
So we are going to wrap.
I want to say one. I want to say
go ahead.
3 quick things. Really 2 for Bobby. Bobby, quickly, or John, quickly. You might care about this more than Bobby. I don't know. Rondo arrested last night. We should note it on the show. Rondo's one of my favorite players in the Celtics. I know
He's
John
around the team in camp.
John didn't really like Rondo that much, but I did. Arrested
He was an
for
ass, but I like him.
I think marijuana and gun possession. I don't even really know what that's all about in Indiana. So I don't know. Just a note. We should probably note that. Speaking of Perkins, him and Perkins were kind of buddies, tandem back in the day. And then Bobby, another Celtics tweet that we got tonight. J.D. Davison suspended by the Maine Red Claws, violation of team rules, which is interesting. Not really sure what that's all about, but he was just named to like the G League, like kind of like the G League All-Star team, I think yesterday. And then today he gets suspended by the team. So something to keep an eye on, I guess.
Don't think it's going to be anything long-term. I think we'll see him at All-Star
Violation
next week
of team rules. Yeah. Interesting.
Joe talked a little bit about him, by the way, in terms of him making that G League Next Up game or whatever the hell they call it. It's pretty adamant in terms of like, you know, don't feel like that's a big accomplishment. That's not going to affect your status with the Celtics. Like, you got to keep proving yourself to us. You know, and it's great that he gets to go do that, but they're pushing him, and I think he's had a good year up there. Who knows if he could be part of this thing going forward? Doesn't seem like there's great momentum behind it, but he's come a long way since they drafted him. And again, good,
he's
talented
athletic
prospect for a second rounder.
He's athletic, but
I love Walsh, by the way.
Really?
Oh yeah,
I love Lamp.
You watch the Walsh tape. You and Jimmy can dive into some of the Walsh tape, you know, in a couple of off days.
Yeah, like I said,
he's been awesome up there.
That's what I'll do.
Okay, let's go watch the. No, I agree.
You know what we'll do? We'll have Ahmed cut some highlights.
It's just so far, you know, it's just such a lower level. But anyway, thank you guys for hanging out. Good group,
I have one last thing to say
crowd.
On our way up.
Yeah.
Really quick. This is a Red Sox thought. I want John Henry out of my life. I want him out of my life. Sell the team. Justin Turner signs a 1-year.
I was just going to say that, Jimmy.
Okay, good. So
why does that
there, Bobby?
Why does that hurt as much as like that's where we are? Like we've been so hurt already, and now it's like Justin Turner walks out the door for 13 minutes.
He didn't walk out. He got
this long.
Out. It hasn't.
Every one of you should have left after Mookie.
But like, where do you go, John?
Nowhere. You give up on this until he sells the team. Stop going.
But John,
stop caring.
John, but this is exactly why we can't stop caring, because he gets away with shit like this when there isn't anybody who's there to call him out on it and force them to do something. This is exactly what happened with the Patriots. Nobody cared enough.
Let the Aussies fucking talk real basketball. We gotta go. Okay, first to the floor.
I'm not
Go
done with
watch
this.
those guys.
Tonight I'm done. But this Red Sox
Jimmy John
issue,
podcast.
this
Next
Red Sox
episode.
issue is getting worse and worse. John Henry does not give a shit about the Red Sox. He has too many other business ventures now, and it needs
I'm going to tangway all of you with an outro here. Okay, I'm going to tangway you.
See you guys.
Okay, but you're
Bye,
right,
everybody.
Jimmy. You're right to feel this way.
I'm glad you said it.
Thank you.
Bye all.
Wait, Amit's got an outro for us, I think.
No, he doesn't.
He said he was going to work on an outro.
He had a phenomenal game.
Phenomenal.
Forfeit's out. I think it's an auction.
That did not sound like a chair.
It was a freaking chair. It does sound like a chair.